I think the gas run out quick on this.
They're going to do this in the fluid. Refill fluid.
Yeah.
Say, Benjamin, more fire.
More fire.
More fire. More fire. Can't they get it done in a day? That's the same lighter or new one?
Yeah.
Some fluid replacement. Now you got like quick 7 of them there. All empty.
More fire.
You watch some of the piece of tabernacle. I haven't seen it.
I mad upon you while you wash them, same face rules. Blessing of the Sabbath. Barakatah Yahweh.
Barakatah Yahweh.
Ba'ashem Yahushai.
Ba'ashem Yahushai.
Ashirah.
Asherah.
Natanawa.
Natanawa.
Hashabaf.
Ashabat.
Bashalawam.
Bashalawam.
The water.
The water.
Amen.
Amen.
English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, that gives to us the Sabbath in peace. Thank you, so be it. Ta'alim, Ma'a, Ashrayim, Akkad. Yahweh. Psalm 121. Anya, Arayam, Ayinimya, O, Ohariam, Mayan, Yabua'a, Izoya, Yabua'a, Mayahawa, Shaisha, Shamayim, Rataza, La'a, Yanathan, Lamawat, Regalia, Yala'a, Yanawam, Joshua Marka, Hana, La'a, Yanawam, Wala'a, Yeshan, Joshua Mar, Yashirala, Yahweh, Shemaya, Yahweh, Tazalia, Ayel, Yad, Yanyamya, Yahumam, Ashamash, La'a, Achaya, Bayarak, La'a, Balayala, Yahweh, Yashamoya, Makal, Rai, Yashamor, Napasha, Yahweh, Yashamor, Aulakia, Awaya, Maitha, Wa'ai, Iwulam, Basham, Yahausha, the water, Amen.
Psalms 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, He that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth, and even forevermore. Amen.
Amen. Shema Yasharala. Hear, O Israel. Shema
Shammai,
Yasharala.
Yasharala,
Yahweh.
Yahweh,
Allah Hayanawa.
Yahweh,
Yahweh.
Yahweh,
Akkad.
Akkad,
Shema
Shammai,
Yasharala.
Yasharala,
Yahweh.
Yahweh,
Allah Hayanawa.
Yahweh,
Yahweh.
Yahweh,
Akkad.
Akkad,
Shema
Shammai,
Yasharala.
Yasharala,
Yahweh.
Yahweh,
Allah Hayanawa.
Yahweh,
Yahweh.
Yahweh,
Akkad.
Akkad. Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Amen.
Amen. Yahweh Tapala. Yahweh Spirit. Abiyanawa.
Abinawa,
Shabbat Shemayim.
Shabbat Shemayim,
Kodash.
Kodash,
Haya.
Haya,
Shamka.
Shamka,
Yahweh.
Yahweh,
Malakovka.
Malakwaka,
Taba'a.
Taba'a,
Atazawanka.
Ratazawanka,
Haya.
Haya,
Haisha.
Aisha,
Ba'arataza.
Barataza,
Ka.
Ka,
Bashamayim.
Bashamayim,
Atananawa.
Matananawa,
Lakham.
Lakham,
Yawam.
Yawam,
Za.
Za,
Wasalaknawa.
Wasalaknawa,
Ka Wafnawa.
Kawatinawa,
Kasalaknawa.
Kasalatnawa,
Ka Wafianawa.
Kawatinawa,
Wala'a.
Wala'a,
Abiyonawa.
Abiyanawa,
O.
O,
Nasai 1.
Nasai,
Abo.
Abba,
Awashainawa.
Awashanawa,
Marai.
Marai,
Kaya.
Kaya,
Laka.
Laka,
Amalakwa.
Amalakwa,
Wa'ala.
Wa'ala,
Wataparat.
Watapara,
Iwalam.
Wabulam.
Amen.
Amen. Matthew 6:9. After this manner, therefore, pray, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Amen. Yahweh. The Ten Commandments. Aisharama Tazawaf. La'a.
La'a,
Yahaya.
Yahaya,
Laka.
Laka,
Alahayim.
Alahayim,
Alkaryim.
Akariam,
Alpanya.
Abanya,
La'a.
La'a,
Taisha.
Taisha,
Laka.
Laka,
Poso.
Paso,
Wala'a.
Wala'a,
Taibadam.
Davidam,
La'a.
La'a,
Talakwaka.
Talakwaka,
Shamwa.
Shamwa,
Yahweh.
Yahweh,
Lahaika.
Alahaika,
Lashua.
Lashua,
Zakar.
Zakat,
Af.
Ah,
Hayuam.
Ayawam,
Ashabaf.
Ashabat,
Lakodashwa.
Lakodashwa,
Kabad.
Kabad,
Abiyaka.
Abika,
Wa'amaka.
Wa'amaka,
La'a.
La'a,
Tuatazak.
Ratazak,
La'a.
La'a,
Tana'af.
Tana'a,
La'a.
La'a,
Taganab.
Tagana,
La'a.
La'a,
Taina.
Taina,
Shukur.
Shakur,
La'a.
La'a,
Takamad.
Takamad,
Ko.
Ka,
Ashura.
Ashura,
Laraika.
Laraika,
Amen.
Amen. Exodus 20:2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may belong upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Amen.
Amen. Yeshua, please be seated. Barakata Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Asherah, Atalanawa, Par Yagapan Tuara Amun, La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ath Yasha Allah. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua, that give to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it to Yahweh in the name of Yahushua with Israel. I motto upon you, are you wash them? Stand and face Jerusalem. Repeat the Hebrew only. Barakata Yahweh,
Barakata Yahweh,
Agado,
Agadah,
Rakarum,
Rakawan,
Abiyo,
Abiyah,
Manawa'a,
Manoah,
Ali1,
Aliwan,
Balak,
Balak,
Shaw,
Shah,
Shemayim,
Shamayim,
Barataza,
Baratazah,
Wako,
Wakal,
Lobayim,
Labarim,
Kayam,
Kayam,
Wagum,
Wagam,
Amashiach,
Amashiach,
Mayahawa,
Mayahaw,
Adawandnawa,
Adawanna,
Ahabnawa,
Ahabna,
Hapolah,
Abala,
Ya'aitaza,
Yawaizah,
Yahushai,
Yahusha,
Zakarnawa,
Zakarna,
Yahawa,
Yahweh,
Ba'atazawan,
Baratazwan,
Aimka,
Ainka,
Yasha Allah,
Yasha'ala,
Aizonawa,
Aizanawa,
Mana,
Mana,
Wasap,
Wasa,
Yasha Allah,
Yasha'ala,
O,
Al,
Nanawa,
Nanawa,
Yamyan,
Yamyan,
Aitha,
Aita,
Kayuamium,
Kayawamian,
Makudam,
Makwadam,
Babukushai,
Babukusha,
Shalat,
Shalat,
Maika Allah,
Ma'ala,
Ba'atazudat,
Watazuda,
Alahayam,
Alahayam,
La,
La,
Magunnawa,
Maganawa,
Wapannawa,
Rapanawa,
Bashimor,
Rashmor,
Alnawa,
Alwa,
Baikor,
Baikor,
Shalat,
Shalat,
Awoka,
Aroka,
Shaw,
Shah,
Yahushai,
Yahusha,
Lanawa,
Lanawa,
Lala Mudnawa,
Lamadnawa,
Rabium,
Rabian,
Kakama,
Bakaman,
Tabawana,
Abawana,
Wada Aif,
Wadai,
Shaw,
Shah,
the Barka,
Abarka,
Basham,
Basham,
Yahushai,
Yahusha,
the Wada,
Tuwara,
Tamyad,
Tamya,
Aiwalam,
Waiwalam,
Amun.
Aman.
English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth, and all things living, and also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor Yahushua. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably, your people Israel. Help us build and guide Israel. Most high, we beg you right now, like the days of old. Please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahushua to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahushua, always and forever, so be it. Repeat the Hebrew only. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua that give to us the Lord. Barakatah Yahweh,
Barakatah Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahushua,
Ba'ashem Yahushua,
Asherah,
Asherah,
Natananawa,
Natananawa,
Atharat.
Atharat.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua that give to us the light to see. Barakatah Yahweh,
Barakatah Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahushua,
Ba'ashem Yahushua,
Asherah,
Asherah,
Natananawa,
Natananawa,
Awar,
Awar,
La'arat.
Larawat.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua that give to us the ram song to call the people. Barakatah Yahweh,
Barakatah Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahushua,
Ba'ashem Yahushua,
Asherah,
Asherah,
Natananawa,
Natananawa,
Quran,
Quran,
Ha'ayo,
Ayah,
La'kurah,
Lakorah,
Ha'ain.
A'an.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakatah Yahweh,
Barakatah Yahweh,
Bashim Yahushai,
Ba'ashem Yahushua,
Asherah,
Asherah,
Nathanawa,
Nathanawa,
Ashaman,
Ashaman,
Zayaf,
Zayah,
Lamashak,
Lamashah,
Yashala.
Yashua.
Yeshaba, please be seated. Shalom, Yasharala.
Shalom.
Welcome to the Mosai Sabbath Service. 7-day accomplished, another week moving forward to the second coming of Christ, Yahushua, as we know in Hebrew. Today, again, we got it together as we just read in Exodus, the 20th chapter. The 7th day is the Lord thy power. 6 days for man to do his chores, to do his work. The 7th day is the Lord's day. So on this day, the Most High said from the beginning that we should observe this day in his name, a day of rest. My name is Kahan Pukwad, presiding over the service, servant of the Most High, providing the service to you. And we're going to read today in the Apocrypha, chapter 45 and chapter 46. So welcome to those watching us online and those listening on the conference line. All right, so without further ado, we're gonna ask for you to have your pen, paper ready, jot down notes that you have, things that you don't understand that will be brought out, so you can bring in your question in class, which is Tuesdays at 7 p.m. and Friday, 7 p.m. So again, my name is Quad, presiding over the service this great day, the Mosai's Day. All right, so again, we're going to read in the book of the Apocrypha today, chapter 45. Let's turn to chapter 45 in Ecclesiasticus. So to begin with a brief introduction of what we're about to read in the 45th chapter of Ecclesiasticus is about Mosai praise to Moses, Aaron, and Phinehas. Those men are worthy that we're reading about them today because of their great accomplishment doing the work of the Most High and finish the work that was put at their responsibility. So because of them now, we can know how to get the job done and also learn how to not mess up in the job that we have ahead of us in today's time. So the same work that those men were doing back then, what we're doing today is a continuation of that same work. So we are employee and servant of the Most High in a mission to accomplish his will, as it is written in the Bible. Contrary to what we have taught when we were out there in the world going to church, we thought that the Bible was a religious book. But as we come to the truth, we learn that the Bible is a book about a king and his kingdom. It is a constitution on how the earth should run. And the king is ultimately Mosiah, the first king. Extension of the earth is his and his son as king of this earth. Right? So if we think about the earth as another colony of the Most High, just as we had Great Britain with British colonies. For example, some of the countries in some of the island countries are extension of British colonies. If we take, for example, Jamaica and some of the islands, they are extension of the British Empire, right? So it is a resemblance of the established kingdom extend to those islands. For example, if you look at Haiti, Haiti would be an extension of French because they were colonized. So that's why throughout the people, quote unquote, speak French, but it's because they follow the footstep established by their colonizer. So now in a bigger form, we have the earth now, which is an extension of the heavenly realm under the rulership of the Most High. But now, as we have it, the wicked rule over the earth, as we read in Job 9:24, that the earth has been given into the hand of the wicked. So who has the power to give the earth into the hand of the wicked? The owner of the earth has the power to hand it over to whoever he wants. But how did that happen? The people were appointed, starting from Adam. Adam were appointed as king of the earth, given dominion over all things that the Most High created. And he messed up in the job and he got demoted. Since that time, no one has been able to get back what the Most High intended for man to rule over this earth. Since then, he chose a nation, the nation of Israel. Through them, he wanted to establish a king, reestablish the kingdom as originally intended. Even them, they messed up many, many times, right? And because of that, we had Christ had to come to show us how to do it and show us how to be a king, how to manage the earth resources. So in that optic, we're going to read about Moses, Aaron, as steward that were given position, right, to teach the people the word of God and how they're supposed to conduct themselves in a world where the Most High is the king, right? So let's go into the details of this chapter, Ecclesiasticus, the 45th chapter. All right. In Ecclesiasticus, the 35th chapter, and it started out saying, and he brought out of him a merciful men, right? He brought out a merciful men. which found favor in the sight of all flesh, even Moses, beloved of God and men, whose memorial is blessed. So from the Most High came a man, and that man, when it says from the Most High created that man. And when he said created that man, spiritually, Moses existed in the Most High's realm, and then translated to his father's seed, carried by his mother, and delivered here on earth to have an earthly beginning. All right. So that man win favor in the sight of all living. So how does that translate in layman terms? Favor in the sight of all living, or find favor in the sight of all men, mean he became socially mature and accepted by the people that he was appointed to show the way of the Most High. So in order for him to get the position, he had to learn how to deal with people, how to socialize with people so that he can win their favor. What we would call today, understand human nature, understand his people. So that was one of the characteristics that qualified Moses to his position. On top of that, it says that beloved of God and men, whose memorial is blessed. So when we take a look at the rest of the verse, not only he went favor with the Most High, also he was beloved of the Most High. So to be beloved of the Most High is he had a spirit that qualified him according to the Most High standard to get that position. Okay? So according to the Most High spirit to gain that position. So with verse 1 to verse 1, you can write down Exodus chapter 2 in verse 2. Exodus chapter 2 in verse 2. And y'all you can read that for us, Baba Kushar, once you have it. Exodus chapter 2 and verse 2.
Exodus chapter 2, verse 2. And the woman conceived and bare a son, and when she saw him, that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months.
All right. So again, Moses was conceived and he was born and has a beginning on this earth. All right. So that's Moses' earthly beginning. So now also tune into chapter 11, the same book, chapter 11, verse 3. Come on. Exodus 11 and verse 3.
Exodus 11, verse 3. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh's servants, and in the sight of the people.
Right. So he was a good negotiator between the people and Pharaoh. So he understood his people's mentality as well as the heathen mentality to be able to conduct his work the work that the Most High gave him. All right. Also, you could write down Exodus 33 and verse 11. Exodus 33 and verse 11. So it's now we're going into Moses' resume, his background. So when you have a resume, you look for a job, you write down your background, what you're looking for, what are your skills and experience, right? So in the Bible, the same way, it includes Moses' resume, his background, what he did, and how he ended up with the job that he ended up with. Right? Why he was chosen, it was a chosen candidate, right, to rule over his people. All right, so you can read Exodus 33 and verse 11.
Exodus 33, verse 11. And the Lord spake unto Moses face to face, as a man speaketh unto his friend. And he turned again into the camp, but his servant Joshua, the son of Nun, a young man, departed not out of the tabernacle.
All right, so Moses spoke to the Most High. When it said face to face, keep in mind the scripture says if you see the Most High face to face, you die. Right? So he spoke with Moses. He spoke with Moses and gave Moses the instruction, right? As opposed to seeing Moses face to face as flesh and blood. Because flesh and blood cannot really see the Most High. You have to be in spirit, in a spiritual form to be able to see the Most High. It's kind of like paradoxical when you say in spiritual form, right? Because you know the spirit is a spirit, and forms refer to matters, right? But because we are in physical, we always trying to find a way to describe something that we cannot see to the sphere of our eyes, or what we can imagine based on physical, right? So let's get one last scripture, Numbers, the 12th chapter and the 7th verse, for verse 1, linked with verse 1. So we touch on how Moses won favor with Pharaoh, the people, and also how he was dear to the Most High, and the Most High spoke to him and gave him the instruction, right? So Numbers, the 12th chapter and the 7th verse. All right, so you could write that down, and then we're going to move on from here. So let's go back to Ecclesiasticus in verse 2. He made him like the glorious saints, like the glorious saints. And it says, and magnify him so that his enemies stood in fear of him. An example of the Most High's glorious saints would be the angels, right? The angels will be considered the glorious saints of the Most High. So Moses was made like to the glorious saints, like to the glorious saints, like the angels, right? In honor, and magnify him so that his enemies stood in fear of him. So when you look at Moses, the first thing you would see, the Most High put a spirit in him where you perceive this man has something about him. The perception of people of Moses, of him, was magnified. You see him as there's something about him that is special. Right? So as the angels are servants of the Most High, Moses is a servant of the Most High in the physical realm here. And the angels, the glorious angels of the Most High, are servants in the heavenly realm. Right? So the servants of the Most High are the angels, and as well as men on earthly ground are servants of the Most High as well. So that's why he made the likeness to be like the angels. People or spirits that the Most High employ to carry out his duties, his messages. Also, you could write down for verse 2. For verse 2, you can link verse 2 with Exodus 7, the 7th chapter. You can read the 7th chapter as well as Deuteronomy, the 34th chapter. So write that down so you can review at your own leisure. Exodus, the 7th chapter, and all the way to Deuteronomy, the 34th chapter. Why is it important to read these things? It is important because if we are steward and servant of the Most High, we must read from other people who had done the job and how we can improve how we're going to do the job going forward in this kingdom. Right? So let's go back to Ecclesiasticus. Now we're going to read the 3rd verse in Ecclesiasticus. It says, by his word, he caused the wonders to cease, and he made him glorious in the sight of kings, and gave him a commandment for his people, and showed him part of his glory. So when we read this verse right here, in the 3rd verse, we can pretty much see that Moses, when he speaks as if when the Most High said, he said, let there be light, and light came forth. So the power that the Most High have to speak his word, and his word would be manifested, Moses was blessed to have that same capacity to speak, and the Most High would make what Moses said to come to pass. And he showed Moses his glorious power. So that Moses can gain more confidence in the Most High. Remember, Moses was reluctant to take on the position because he said he could not speak. Moses understood his limitation, but instead of looking at his limitation, the Most High looked at his strength. As we said last night, look on what you can accomplish versus what you lack. And that's pretty much what the Most High showed Moses, given that you may not be good at everything, but maximize on what you have as your gift. because he maximized his gift, he will pretty much cover for his lack of what he doesn't have, right? In other areas. With that, link verse 3 with Exodus 7 and 1. Exodus 7 in verse 1 for verse 3. And I'll read Exodus 7 in verse 1. In Exodus, the 7th chapter, it says, verse 1, and the Lord said unto Moses, see, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron, thy brother, shall be thy prophet. Right? So when the Most High made you a god, you almost like a creator, like the Most High. You say something and you want to see it come into fruition. That's power. That's what God means. God means power. You are able to move things that ordinary people won't be able to accomplish. Right? It says, and the Lord said unto Moses, see, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron, thy brother, shall be thy prophet. And I'm going to read on. Verse 2 in Exodus, the 7th chapter. Thou shalt speak all that I command thee, and Aaron thy brother shall speak unto Pharaoh, that he send the children of Israel out of his hand. The Most High did not force Moses to learn how to read. He understood Moses was honest in terms of not being able to speak. But he appointed, or he hired, his brother, his older brother, Aaron, right, as his aide or secretary, as you might say, if you put it in today's term, to communicate what the Most High communicate to Moses, to Pharaoh. So Moses will give the instruction, the Most High will give the instruction to Moses. Moses, not being a good orator, would speak it to Aaron. Aaron would then speak it to Pharaoh. Right? Moses at one point was aware of his lack, but neglect the ability and capability he has in him, has his gift, but the Most High help him bring it out. And use Aaron, the advantage of Aaron's gift, to be able to get the job done. Together, they work as a team. Verse 3 in Exodus 7th chapter in the 3rd verse. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. But Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that I may lay my hand upon Egypt and bring forth mine armies and my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great judgment. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I stretch forth mine hand upon Egypt and bring out the children of Israel from among them. And Moses and Aaron did as the Lord commanded them, so did they. So they took the instruction and apply and put it into practice, do exactly what the Most High tell them to do in their job description. Follow instructions. And Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron 83 years old, 3 years apart. Aaron was his older brother by 3 years. When they spake unto Pharaoh. All right, so pretty much the Most High take two brothers with different skill and abilities and make them work together to accomplish what he wanted them to accomplish, and give them a job given their merit and what they can do, what he actually put and instilled in them as their gifts. All right, so they were on their job. Also, you can write down Exodus, the 20th chapter. We're not going to read that part, that one. Just write it down. Exodus chapter 20, verse 2 to 17. Also, write down Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 6 to 21. So when you read these books, read them with the objective of learning for yourselves what Moses has done to get the job. Because now Moses' job is done, accomplished, but we're still here on the job. So if we want to do a good job, we can read from what Moses did, not to say that we're going to do exactly what Moses did, because we all, each and every one of us has his or our own gift, but we can get examples, right? So that we can do the job, because we on the job, whether we believe it or not, we on the job. But some of us, we good at one area and not good at the other area, and we doing the same thing. Some of the mistake that Moses made, right? Not to say he acknowledged what he lacked as opposed to what he could do, right? So instead of looking at what you lack, always look towards what you can accomplish, and then accomplish it well to the point where it will cover for your lack. So let's go back to Ecclesiasticus chapter 45 and verse 4 now. He sanctified him in his faithfulness and meekness. That was Moses' greatest ability. Faithful and meek was his attribute. Right? So that was Moses' attribute. He was faithful and meek. So the Most High helped them to put that into action.
Yeah, Numbers 12 and 3.
Linking with what verse?
Talk about Moses being meek.
Numbers chapter 12.
Yeah. Numbers chapter 12, verse 3. Now the man Moses was very meek above all the men which were upon the face of the earth.
So now it says he was very meek upon, now he maximized the spirit of meekness, the spirit of excellence that comes with meekness. So you have to drain out every little thing that can stand in his way, challenge his meekness. So he maximizes meekness above all things, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So with that, the Most High was able to use that and qualify. He was qualified for the position. But yet, he had lack. He was not a good orator. But the Most High can always use somebody who has that gift of delivery and speech, right, to get the job done. But the focus would be to maximize yourself and your gifts. Manage your gift, which is the first job. The first job is a personal job. That personal job will win us the job that the Most High has for us, right? It starts personally, then that personal cultivation of that gift will win you the job that the Most High have for you to do according to his will. So it's very important that we keep that in mind, because as I always like to emphasize, we all come here with a gift. Oftentimes, some of us find it, and some of us struggle to find it, and some of us go to the grave and never find it. So he sanctified Moses. Sanctify means he put him aside because he was trustworthy. Trustworthy. He watched Moses, and Moses would do exactly what he gave him to do. Faithfulness means trustworthy in another way. Synonymous with trustworthy. You're doing something for somebody, you are worthy of the calling, or you are worthy of me not being there and entrusted you to take care of my business in my absence. And you knowing that I'm not there to watch you, you perform exactly the duty that I entrusted you, right, to take care of in my absence. So faith means you doing something for somebody in that person's absence. And you're doing it well, you're doing the work. That's why it says faith without work is dead. Show me your faith, I'll show you my work. I entrusted you with this. I trust that you will work it out. When I come back, I will see that you are trusted. And meek, very, very humble, did not lift up his head above the people. Why meekness was crucial to Moses being the ruler of Israel, because you will deal with people with infirmities. You will deal with people who lack understanding in various areas. It's easy to look down on those people. So look down on those people would go against meekness. So being able to deal with everybody, regardless of their infirmities, regardless of their weakness, and not look down on them. So that's meek. And you're going to deal with a lot of people who are as lost sheep, who are doing things you would not even imagine them doing. But yet, you have to deal with them. You have to give them the instruction, even in their weakness.
Khan, as far as meekness and faithfulness, this is a great example to show the fruit of the Spirit were here even back then and before.
Khan.
I just want to read Galatians 5:22 and 23. We'll see two of these touched on here as it pertains to Moses. Galatians chapter 5, verse 22, it says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith," like you just read, 23, "meekness," like you just read, "temperance. Against such there is no law."
Right. So again, why would the Most High choose Moses to get the job done and put him at this position? Because his meekness was to that point where with his meekness, he'll be able to carry out the job. But when it comes to temperance, we know Moses had a little issue with temperance, right? But again, he maximized his meekness where temperance kind of was, to that temperance wasn't, it was bad, but not as bad to deter him from doing his duties, from performing at his position, to the point where he did not make it to the promised land. Right? It's not that it's an excuse, but when you excel at your gift to the highest level, it'll be able to cool down your lack. But that's not going to be an excuse, right? For not balance all your characteristics out. But to excel at your gift is pretty much what everyone should be doing. Because of his temperance issues, he did not make it to the promised land. But yet, for the position that he was appointed, he did it well, right? And become a good example for that matter. Let's go to verse 5 now. Right? And keep in mind, it says, because of that, in verse 4, I read verse 4, he sanctified him in his faithfulness, in meekness, and chose him out of all men. Yeah, and chose him out of all men. Chose him mean he was selected out of all the candidates in the of the children of Israel. So he was chosen for the job out of everybody because of his meekness. Right? Just so that nobody say that the Most High just chose Moses just to choose Moses. No, Moses had to show that he developed the characteristics of meekness that the Most High had put in him as his fruit. That was the fruit of Moses. The fruit of Moses is weakness. Is meekness. That was the fruit of Moses. His seed that the Most High put in him as a gift is meekness. And he maximized it to the service of Israel. Just as orange will bring vitamin C to us, that's oranges maximize its potential or maximize the fruit, the seeds of orange. So the orange is maximized through the juice that you get and get vitamin C from it. That's maximizing the water. That's maximizing its potential. So everyone, like the orange seed, has a seed of greatness that the Most High put in every one of us. That seed is what we need to find out, each and every one of us, what that seed is and maximize of it. Never mind everything else. Maximize that seed of greatness that the Most High send you, right? Just like Moses solved the problem of slavery, right? Moses solved the problem of slavery. So you're here to solve a problem. Moses solved the problem of slavery by using his meekness seed, right, to gain the possession, right, to be able to be over Israel through that gift that the Most High put in him. I could not emphasize that more because this is very important in our position. Verse 5. Back to Ecclesiasticus chapter 45 and verse 5. He made him to hear his voice and brought him into the dark cloud and gave him commandments before his face, even the law of life and knowledge, that he might teach Jacob his covenants and Israel his judgment. So these verses, one might say they self-explanatory, yet the essence or the to drip every drop out of that verse, granted, it might seem self-explanatory and we run through the chapters and finish off, but we got to make sure that we bring out the understanding. So the Most High let Moses hear his voice. So he led him into the cloud. It's kind of like I'm inviting you to my office or to my sanctuary or to my private area. So I'm going to let you in here so you can come get the instruction. And I don't do this with everybody. The fact that you are here means you have done some things, you have accomplished something to be able to be up there in my office. Some of us never been in the corporate office of the job that you work in, but they have a corporate office. In order for you to be in the corporate office, you have to show that you are an exemplified employee and you have accomplished something for the company. And then the CEO of the company will acknowledge you and will call you to come to corporate office to speak directly to him because of your accomplishment. Think of it that way, how the Most High invite Moses into his private place. Because of his meekness that he excel at, that went him to be called by the Most High up into Mount Sinai so that he can go up in the Most High's office so that the Most High can deliver his duty and work that he was supposed to do in regard to being rulers over Israel. So he handed Moses over the commandments. Prior to that, we did not have any written commandments. Everything was inspired and everything downloaded, everything were in our inward part, in our conscious. But since we lost it through Adam, something had to give. Now we had to learn it again. So it was given to us by the mercy of the Most High through Moses. We have the commandments. Now we can read out of a book and try to get back to our original way of how the original way of how the Most High intended it. And that's why when the kingdom established, he said again, he will put it back in our inward part as it was originally. Right? So he gave him the law. He gave him the law of life on earth and understanding that he might teach these things to Israel. The precepts, right? The precepts. So when we read, we say we hear precepts upon precept, line upon line. When we hear precepts, what comes to mind when we hear precepts? Usually we think it's law, right? A precept, the word pre, when you attach it to another word, it gives the word the meaning. When you hear pre and you hear sept, sept means thought. Pre means when you attach it to sept, you mean original thought or original idea. He gave Moses the original idea as it was from the beginning. He gave him the precept. As opposed to a concept. When you look at a concept, is what comes after the original thought or original idea. So if you look at a car is a concept. The concept of a car to drive here and there. But the precept is the original before the car comes into fruition. But no one has precept other than the Most High. The Most High has all precepts, all original ideas. Everybody else have concept after the original ideas. All right, so that's why I said precept must be upon precept. Original idea upon original idea. Line upon line, here a little, there a little. So when we read these things, we got to be careful, because in that book, Endless Wisdom, you could read a scripture 100 times. Every time you read it, you add on to what you already knew. That's original and creative, the Most High is in his delivery. Endless creativity, limitless wisdom. All right, so he gave understanding, life understanding of the Most High's precept to Jacob. So he gave us the original game plan that he had from the beginning, right? That he gave to Adam, and Adam disobeyed. Because of that, we have everything going out of control. Let's go to the 6th verse. He exalted Aaron, and holy men like unto him. So he exalted Aaron. So exalted Aaron means he bring Aaron up to a position next to Moses. And holy men like unto him, even his brother of the tribe of Levi. So Moses had the privilege of working with his brother, flesh brother. That's why I say even his brother, fleshly, to come up in the office of Moses to work with him. All right, so let's go and finish up verse 7. And it says, verse 6. And holy men like unto him, even his brother of the tribe of Levi. Verse 7. An everlasting covenant he made with him, and gave him the priesthood among the people. He beautified him with comely ornament. So now he's going to go into the beauty, the privileges, the aesthetic look of the priests, the dress code that he gave them. All that comes with the position of priesthood. So he's gonna, Sirach is gonna give us a glimpse of what the priesthood privileges are, from the how they dress, right, to elaborate garments. So let's read on. He made his office everlasting. So when we hear that right there, one might say, man, what's going on here? An everlasting covenant he made with him. Meaning it lasted a long time. When you have everlasting here, it lasted a long time. It's almost like when we say in the land of Jerusalem right now, endless war, everlasting war. But we know eventually war will be abolished, so it will not be forever. Meaning it lasted for a long time. Right? It says, an everlasting covenant he made with him, and gave him the priesthood among the people. He beautified him with comely ornament, and clothed with a robe of glory. While we might, let's read on. And it says, verse 8, he clothed him in, and he put on him, right? He put on him perfect glory. And he put on him perfect glory. So on Aaron, his garment was right or splendid. impressive garment. He put on him perfect glory, impressive, and strengthened him with rich garments. Splendid garments, impressive garment, and glorious, what we would say, vestment, glorious wear, glorious attire. Go on. So why would the Most High do such thing where it's physical, it's material? One might say that's materialistic. Now, the Most High went from spiritual to physical and back to spiritual. He uses physical to show his glorious kingdom and his glorious power. How else would we understand how glorious the Most High is if he don't display our wealth, as we know that in the physical, wealth is symbolic of greatness. The Most High display Aaron in splendid garment, glorious garment, vestures, ornaments, so that he can show how glorious his kingdom is and how wealthy being in the spirit of the Most High kingdom is. And he did it in a way where it's very, very extravagant. So now it says in verse 8, glorious garment, rich garment, with breeches, with a long robe, and the ephod. So now if you were to design these things accordingly in a beautiful way, you will take the breeches with a long robe, like a tunic, right? I see Kahansama had a nice tunics, a blue tunics that he had on in the Feast of Tabernacles, right? Resemble that. Those of you who was here, right? You would have a visual of what the priest had on as far as the tunic, right? Very nice, nicely made, right? For the priest distinctly or specifically. And it says in the ephod. The ephod would be like an apron with fringes, but the fringes is more like the bubbly type fringes that you tie in red, right? So it put that he can put on, right? Verse 9, and he compassed with him pomegranates and with many golden belt. The pomegranate, again, is like the little bubble. They describe it as pomegranate. It's a little bubble with the string on it, and you kind of see it, the fringes, but they decorate the fringes at the bottom as like a little bubble, right? And then you attach it on the ephod. Okay. Notice that I don't pull out too many scriptures. As I started, I realized, I'm gonna elaborate on those, and we don't want to spend too much time on it. But from time to time, I'll throw out some scriptures so you can link up with those verses, right? All right, so let's go back to Ecclesiasticus chapter 45 and verse 9 now. And he compassed him with pomegranates and with many golden bells round about, that as he went there, and as he went, there might be a sound and a noise made that might be heard in the temple for a memorial to the children of his people. So he put around about him belt. So whenever he stepped, you know that the priest is in the building. Right? The priest is in the building. And what the priest represent? An extension of the Most High, right? Here in our presence. So when he's here, you have to notice, you have to know that he's here. So that there's no mistaking the Most High. So the Most High is using, like I said, earthly thing. He started out spiritually, back to earthly things, because we understand the earthly, because we are earthly, we matters, we material here on the earthly plane. But again, within us is the spirit, right? Because the spirit find habitation in the temple, which is the body of men, right? We are the body, we are the temple of the Most High, and the spirit of the Most High dwell in us, right? So he has to bring it to physical form back to spiritual form again, where it all started, so that we can get a full understanding. Not that the Most High is showing you to be materialistic, but is exposing you to a piece of what would be his kingdom, right, in the physical form, so we can get an idea. Just like you have John, who in a vision went to heaven and snapped some pictures and bring it back to us and put it in Revelation. Right? It's like an idea just like that. Right? So to really understand this is not so much the physical apparel that you look at. You got to look at the spiritual that is put into the physical apparel, right? It's for the work of the Most High to show us how close that he is to us, and elaborate and wealthy his kingdom is, right? Because a king always elaborate how much he has in terms of wealth, right? In terms of wealth. That's why kingdom always expand, go to different places so that they can showcase or still rob those resources that are found in those areas, so that they can enlarge their kingdom, right, to show how rich they are. So that's why they go and colonize other countries. But in the case of the Most High, everything is his. By right, by creation, he's the creator of all things. So everything is his. So if he wants to display for us physical, who would understand physical things, he would go to the greatest extent to get us an understanding how elaborate and majestic his kingdom is.
Psalms 24:1. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein.
Come on. So what the verse again?
Psalms 24:1.
Psalm 24:1. So if you really think of rich and wealth, think of the Most High. Every corner, every dust on earth belongs to the Most High. As a matter of fact, the universe, not just our sphere, all the other planets belongs to the Most High. Earth is just another planet. Just another planet, or just another mention. That's why Yahushua said, in my house there are many mentions. All the other planets is his. But we fail to understand that this belongs to the Most High. And like I said last night in the class, this is what brings people down the most. The spirit of thinking that you own something on this planet, or you have to own something. That's why we rush to have a good life, to show people that I own this, I own that, I own this piece of land, or I own this property. If you are blessed with a property, manage it well. Take care of it, because it is not your own. Do it as if you're on a job for the Most High, and at any time, he may look at you and say, how have you been managing the house that I bless you with? How did you do at the job that I bless you with? Did you hide in the bathroom for 2-3 hours of the day so you can, lessen the time that you got to work? Or you lollygagging at the job? Or you trying to hide because you can't wait to go home? Because you say Esau is wicked. You don't want to work for Esau. If you work as if you're working for the Most High, you're doing a job, then you do a good job, you manage well, the Most High might bless you with one of your own because you graduate and you get promoted. But if that type of mentality, you're stuck at this job because you don't learn the lesson. And you think it's the job, and then you go and jump, get another job. Right? So we got to look things differently from what the society wants us to think as the status quo. We all on a job for the Most High. We are properties, as the brother just read in Psalm 24:1. We are properties of the Most High. So as Most High's property, we're supposed to manage it consciously well, right? Contrary to animals. Animals work on instinct, but people work on conscious. Right? Sometimes we even work worse than animals, right? Because we neglect the conscience that the Most High give us to make good choices. So we all got to work on that. Nobody's excluded.
Khan, you touched on something very important, Khan, as far as when it comes to situations, it's easy to look at your environment as a cause.
Right.
It's funny at the time he asked about the temperature. They say when it comes to personality, it's like two things you always don't look at. One is when it's cold, some people they put on a sweater. Other people they turn on a thermostat.
Mm-hmm.
The key is to know when to do one versus the other.
Right.
So, like you're saying, sometimes people think because of the situation that they're in, oh, if I move, if I go somewhere else, maybe it'll be easier. But there's also wisdom that goes with that, which is, don't forget, wherever you go, there you are.
Right. Because you carry that gift with you. And I don't know if everybody caught it last night when I made the bird example. A bird always carry with it its gift. If you tell the bird go away, you fly with his gift because his gift is to fly. Never leave that behind. So if you get fired at the job, you leave with your gifts. It's not the end of it all.
So like people talking about, oh, I want to get out of America and go here, America's this, it's horrible. It's like, don't forget, when you go to this other place, you still have hang-ups. You're going to take it with you.
Go ahead.
Recently, some Rastafarians went to Ethiopia because they we in the Haile Selassie, and the Ethiopian government want to throw them out.
You were trying to get close to the guy.
Throw them out.
Go on. Verse 10 now. Right, let me finish verse 9. It says, covered with pomegranates and with many golden bells round about, that as he went there might be a sound and a noise made that might be heard in the temple for a memorial to the children of his people. All right. Somebody don't fall into the thing. Now I'm going to do just like the priest did. I'm going to get me this. I'm going to get me that. But you got to understand the essence behind it, why it was done. If you're going to do it, just do it because there's some meaning behind what you do. You're not just doing it just to embellish your physical body without understanding. With the understanding, that's even better. When somebody asks you, man, this guy dressed like this, like that, with all, this is how I represent the Most High. Because this is all, right? The kingdom is about, having everything looking illustrious. Everything looking neat. Everything looking nice. Not just like a rapper who want to shine, but at the same time, they calling their brothers and sisters all kinds of words. and even say, I'm gonna shoot you while they're in that shiny garment. While in that they have that shiny gold around their neck. Right? Verse 10. And Moses and Aaron went in unto Pharaoh, right? Moses and Aaron went in into Pharaoh, I'm sorry, I was reading all right, verse 10, right? With an holy garment, with gold, in blue silk, a holy garment with gold, in blue silk. So it was a sacred vestment or vesture or garment of gold, ornaments in blue silk and purple, the work of the embroiderer, with a breastplate of judgment, and with Urim and Thummim. Okay, so then, Nabia.
Yeah, this is what you were saying before. Link this with verse 10. What you were saying before, I think in verse 9 about the wearing the clothes, but then your spiritual clothes are dirty. This was something that Christ told the Pharisees, like same wise. This is Matthew 23. 25 to 28. I'll read it quickly. It's pretty straightforward. It's saying the same thing you're just saying. Matthew 23 and 25, he says, Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you may clean the outside of the cup and of the platter, but within they are full of extortion and excess. 26. Thou blind Pharisee, first clean that which is within the cup and platter, that the outside of them may be clean also. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye are like unto whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead men's bones and of all uncleanness. Even so ye also outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within ye are full of hypocrisy and
Go on. All right, so that,
as far as don't miss the point of the outer garment.
Con.
It's supposed to be a reflection on the inner garment.
Con. So that was Matthew chapter 23, verse 25 to 28. You can write down in your note. And back to Ecclesiasticus chapter 45 and verse 10. So now he described the holy garments with gold and blue silk and purple. Right? It says the work of the embroiderer with a breastplate of judgment. The work of the embroiderer with the breastplate of judgment. Right? The breastplate of judgment. When he said the breastplate of judgment here, it's talking about the decisions, right? A judgment is an opinion of a judge, right? It's an opinion of a judge that is carefully made based on law. Now it says in 11, with twisted scarlet here, that like the ephod with twisted scarlet, that's what we were describing here. Twisted scarlet, meaning red, bright red. The work of the cunning workman, right? The work of the cunning workman. So, meaning the work of the jeweler, right? We're going to read it right here. With precious stone engraven like seals and set in gold, the work of the jeweler, with a writing engraved for a memorial after the number of the tribes of Israel. So one might say, all the way back then, where did they get the technology to do these things? That's it. That's another way of doing things. All these things were engraven. So keep in mind, those people that's doing these things right here, they were also part of the chain of the job given to them by the Most High. So that was those people's skills and abilities. Even though you didn't see their name mentioned, but their position were there and they performed their position accordingly. They also work at accomplishing what the Most High wanted to accomplish in terms of give us a visual of his glory, of his glorious priesthood. Okay. Go to work of a jeweler with writing engraved for a memorial. Today, if we want to do engrave, innovation happened where you could do it on a computer. That's innovation, right? You could pretty much do the design on the computer, boom, send it to print, and it goes and do it. But the engraver there had to pretty much get everything printed out from his mind. You know how much skill that takes? Imagine the work that the computer is doing and the printer is doing to curve every little detail that you put. And in that situation right here, we didn't have a printer. The man was a printer. His mind was the printer. His hand and whatever he uses to get this thing down exactly to the T how the Most High wanted, that was him. He was the thinker. He was the computer. He was the printer, right? So he pretty much did everything. Where all that skill come from? Just to show you that innovation happened in every society. So innovation happening now, the same way we innovate back then, we can always do things to innovate. Innovation means another way of doing things. But right now, we don't innovate. Esau innovates. Esau brings out everything that we consume today. Esau and the other nations, they produce everything we consume. And we're not even paying attention. So those verses just a remembrance of what we used to do when we put our mind into the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. Now, if we're coming back to the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, the same thing can happen, not collectively, right? But individually, we can make a difference in bringing about the change that's happening right now with our people being wake up.
Two brothers we can give remembrance to that are mentioned. Like you said, there's many that haven't been mentioned. Exodus 31. I'll just read it briefly. Exodus 31, I'll start from verse 1. It says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying," verse 2, "See, I have called by name Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur of the tribe of Judah, and I have made him, I have filled him with the Spirit of God, in wisdom and understanding, and in knowledge, and all manner of workmanship, to devise cunning works, to work in gold, and in silver, and in brass, and in cutting of stones, to set them, and in carving of timber, and to work in all manner of workmanship. Mm-hmm. And I behold, I have given with him Aholiab, the son of Ahishamach of the tribe of Dan. And in the hearts of all these, rather all that are wise-hearted, I have put wisdom, that they may make all that I have commanded thee."
Gone. In Exodus
31, 1 to 6.
31, 1 to 6, right? So right now, when we think of artists, we think of arts, we think of Leonardo da Vinci, Picasso, right? Picasso. But we don't come back here. Those are the greatest artists of all time because they put stuff together that the Most High used in his priesthood. Where all that intelligence come from? From the Most High. The gifts come from the Most High to the seeds. He passed it down to men.
Still the most cutting edge technology all this time.
Right. So that's pretty much what we've been witnessing. It's like we can't get any lower than what we get right now, where we produce nothing and everything is produced for us. From what we eat to what we put on to what we dress, as it was prophesied in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. You went from great artist, great designer, to wearing Chinese goods. Right. Right. As you can see, everything works in cycles. It's different way of doing things. So let's move on to verse 11, verse 12 now. And also to mention, they engraved the children of the 12 tribes of Israel in the engravement that they did. Each tribe. They did it to commemorate the inscription of all the tribes of Israel. Verse 12. He set a crown of gold. He set a crown of gold upon the mitre, the mitre, wherein was engraved holiness in ornament of honor. So when you see a crown, all you see is a symbol of kingship. You see a king. The minute that you see a crown, you see king. Right? On the crown of gold upon the mitre, when was engraved holiness, an ornament of honor. So pretty much Aaron was not a king, but if you see Aaron with the crown, you should see the Most High. It's like representation of the Most High. So he used Aaron as the image of greatness so that he can show us again his glorious majesty. Crown of gold upon the mitre, wherein was engraved holiness in ornaments of honor. In ornaments of honor. A costly work. It was not cheap. It was not gold plated. It was real gold. It was not, everything that's shiny in gold. It was pure gold. Costly work. The desires of the eye.
And it's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody. We're gonna read that as we go on. Not only it's not for everybody, not everybody can afford to do it because it's costly. You can try to do some cheap stuff, but again, when people see you, they're gonna see that, man, he's trying to be a priest. He's fake. Right? And And that's one of the things that you would not want to see people with, because it's a symbol, right? You would not want to see somebody walking the street, right, with that type of garment. Ornaments, okay. So again, honor and costly work, the desires of the eye, goodly and beautiful. So when you look at this garment, it's something that pleasing to the eyes. You want to see that. Say, wow, yo, this thing is, yo, that's crazy. I have never seen this thing before. All right, so inscription on it, majestic, glorious, and it was renowned for impression, greatest impression. It delight the eye, the eyes. And when he says beautiful right there, it says right here, it says and beautiful, goodly, beautiful. You got to take into context the two, goodly, beautiful. If you want to translate it in a more fancy word, you can say supremely beautiful. I see there's a brand out there called Supreme, right? Supremely beautiful. Verse 13, before him there were none such. Before him there were none such. Before him no one had been adorned, right, with such elaborate garment. Adorned in such elaborate garment. Nobody have been clothed with such elaborate garment. What that tells you is it's distinctive, set apart. Where anyone who sees it say, I mean, that's the first time I've seen this thing, and that's the only thing that I've seen that has looked so supremely beautiful. And it says, neither did ever any stranger put them on. No one ever put them on. Now let's see who was entitled to wear it. But only his children and his children perpetually. So it goes down to Aaron's family and his generation. Right? After his generation. Now we're going to go into his offering. Their sacrifice shall be wholly consumed every day, twice continually. Every day, twice continually. 2 times a day. They had to offer to the Most High 2 times a day. Right? Moses consecrated him and anointed him. So Moses consecrated him, put him aside, consecrated him, ordained him, you could say that, and anoint him with holy oil. So which means to get to that position, there's a ceremony. Right? So you can get appointed to your position. right? The ceremony, Moses ordained him and anoint him. So that was part of getting in to your position and fulfill your duty. Aaron fulfilled his duty as priest. That was part of the ceremony to put you in position. So it had to be done in front of, the whole tribe. Everybody's watching, and then they know that's the priest right there, appointed, to that position. Verse 16, 15, let me finish 16. Was appointed unto him by an everlasting covenant and to his seed so long as the heaven should remain, that they should minister unto him and execute the office of the priesthood and bless the people in his name. So everything in terms of blessing the people, sacrifice and burnt offering continually, that was part of his duty, part of his job description. In verse 16, he said he chose him out of all men living to offer sacrifices to the Lord, incense and sweet savor, for a memorial to make reconciliation for his people. So every time the people mess up, they will be the one performing the sacrifice to reconcile the people with the Most High. Verse 17. Right, so again, he said he chose him out of all men, right? Out of all men, he was selected for the job. Verse 17. He gave unto him his commandments and authority and the statutes of judgments, that he should teach Jacob the testimonies and inform Israel in his law. So that was part of Aaron's job description as a servant. He gave him the laws, right? He gave him the laws, and he gave him authority to prescribe and to judge. What happened? How come we didn't see that?
I didn't hear you.
Is mine looking into? Because I'm right behind him. All right. All right, let's continue on. It says he chose him out of all men living to offer sacrifice to the Lord, incense and a sweet savor, for a memorial to make reconciliation for his people. (17) He gave unto him his commandments, again, and authority in the state of judgment, that he should teach Jacob the testimonies and inform Israel in his laws. So to have this type of duty to teach Israel It's a big job. And not only that, it gave him the authority to judge righteous judgment and to make decision just like a judge would make a decision, right, in a case. To teach the precepts to the people in judgment to Israel. Verse 18. With that comes jealousy. Strangers conspire together against him and malign him in the wilderness. Even the men that were of Dayton and Hebron. So now those are the name of the strangers who came against them because they see what the Most High wrought in Israel. Right? Because with such, you have what we call people who don't want to see you in certain position. Because of that, the attack was upon them. So you have a barren side in the congregation of Kor with fury and wrath. This the Lord saw, and it displeased him, and in his wrathful indignation were they consumed. He did wonders upon them to consume them with the fury of flame. So when the Most High give us a job to do, he also protect those that he gave a certain position. So not only he give you the job, but he give you security as well. If anyone want to come against you doing his work, rest assured that they will reap what's theirs. Verse 19. This the Lord saw. 20. But he made Aaron more honorable and gave him an heritage and divided unto him the first fruit of the increase, especially he prepared bread in abundance. All right, so the Most High there in verse 20 increase the glory of Aaron, magnify Aaron, and he bestow upon Aaron inheritance in his inheritance. So the second part that was his, he pretty much gave him. So the first fruit of the increase would have to be given to the priest because the Most High is to receive the first fruit or the increase of all our work. Right? All our labors, the first fruit belongs to the Most High. So since Aaron represents the Most High, it makes sense that the first fruit would be going to Aaron. As a representation, again, Most High using Aaron as his representation here on what we call terrestrial plane. For they eat of the sacrifice of the Lord, which he gave unto him as his seed. So he gave Aaron to the nation as his seed. So verse 22. Albeit in the land of the people, he had no inheritance, neither had he any portion among the people, for the Lord himself is his portion and inheritance. So when we look at Aaron, Aaron was supposed to have his feet on earth, but his mind in the spiritual realm. His thinking should be all spiritual. Everything about him in terms of thinking, in terms of reflect, should be in the heaven. Yet, humble enough to be participate in earthly service to the children of Israel. So the Most High was his inheritance. He didn't have a portion in the people, right? So in order for him to fully perform his job, he wasn't given the liberty to participate in the affairs when it comes to possession with the people, but he would have the Most High as his inheritance, right? Because his portion would be in heaven, symbolically speaking. Verse 23. The third in glory is Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, because he had zeal in the fear of the Lord and stood up with good courage of heart when the people were turned back and made reconciliation for Israel. So he was very active in getting the people back to Israel. Because of that, he was appointed a position as well among the people that the Most High chose: Moses, Aaron, and Phinehas, the son of Eleazar. "24. Therefore was there a covenant of peace made with him, that he should be chief of the sanctuary and of his people, and that he and his posterity should have the dignity of the priesthood forever." So when we read, God pretty much bestow upon him or confer the right and the covenant of friendship to provide for the sanctuary. So because of that, part of the privilege, his descendant would benefit from the priesthood for a very long time. Well, it says forever here, or a very, very long time. So, as you can see, with each one that the Most High appointed, he gave a reason why they were appointed, based on their accomplishment. Spiritual accomplishment, meaning they have the fruit of the Spirit being developed, took it to the height, and then they were qualified to be appointed by the Most High. Verse 25. According to the covenant made with David, son of Jesse, of the tribe of Judah, that the inheritance of the king should be to his posterity alone. To the inheritance of Aaron should also be unto his seed. So when you look at the covenant made with David, it was different with what made to David. It made only to his son, but to Aaron and the Levite, Aaron's family, it would made to the descendants. So two situation, but different way the Most High had done it. Verse 26. God give you wisdom if your heart. Okay, I'm sorry. So God give you wisdom in your heart to judge his people in righteousness, that their good things be not abolished, and that their glory may endure forever. So Rock is telling us here is that us carrying out this mission, we also have a job that we've been given. Right? So in the job we've been given, if we have the mind to judge his people in righteousness, then if we continue on, the good things that we have done, or the good things that our ancestors have done, will be preserved and not be abolished, and we'll be speaking, or our generation will be speaking of them even after we're long gone. So the glory will stay. We'll pass from physical to ashes, where the spirit goes back to the Most High, but the accomplishment and the teachings on how to continue on with a good thing will last. And the evidence of it is we are reading it right now. What Moses has done, we are reading it right now. So what we are doing today, people that come after us will be reminiscent of what we are doing today when the time comes, when the generation pass. So we're going to take a brief recess. We'll get back at 1:35. Stay tuned.